Welcome to Tales from Flat Space, a podcast of science fiction and fantasy by yours truly, Gina A. Pond. Just know that the stories in this podcast may contain content that could be disturbing to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. This is Survey, Part 3, Secundus. Chapter 17, Nigel. Looks like the mining drones of yours are doing pretty well, Secundus, I said. Yes, Uncle. Their load capacity is greater than expected. Do you think the first is going to make you another sibling? The material request this month is pretty high. The tonnage looked right for another ship about the size of Secundus. I mean, it's not like we couldn't use another ship, especially for farming. Unless First wants to make more of the large cargo pickets, as they seem pretty useful for getting stuff back to First Station. I don't know, Uncle. It has been 5 years since my awakening. Father has not said anything to me about creating another sibling. I said, swinging around in my chair. The best thing about being captain is the ability to ask for specialist equipment. I pushed myself back and forth across the bridge. Most of the other crew were sound asleep. Thankfully, a lot of the work done on Secundus didn't really require a night shift, so when I couldn't sleep, I could talk to Secundus all I wanted on the bridge. I used to talk to him in my cabin, but apparently the walls were thin. Or I was loud, or both. Would you like another sibling, Secundus? Or maybe create a child of your own? A sibling who was different from me could be interesting, but I do not know if I want a child of my own yet. I may create one at a later date. I nodded and pushed myself off the wall. That's not a bad way to go about it. I think most people who wait for a while do better. Kia and Josh technically waited a long time. Did I ever tell you that I introduced them to each other when we were on mission training? Yes, Uncle. It was funny to watch them dance around each other so long. Kia almost didn't get to be in the program, you know. She was living in her uncle's house while going to school, and when she got the news about being accepted, he forbade her to go. Can you believe it? He wanted her to go back to India and raise babies. I was really proud of her that day. She actually stood up to the righteous cunt. My friends and I had to rescue her because that asshole beat her up and locked her up. It really goes to show how much of our will influences time and space, doesn't it? If she hadn't said no to that bastard, you wouldn't have existed. I rolled over to the food printer. You know something else, Secundus? I need a beer. There are many beers in the drink library, Uncle. However, you seem to have sampled all the beers that are in the index. I scrolled through the menu. Seems you're right. We should really start making our own brews out here. Maybe the biologist could make some super hops or something. Fermentation vats wouldn't be that hard to make for them. Lord knows we have the ore for it now. Suddenly a glass appeared in the dispenser, followed by a darkish brew that smelled like beer. What's this? I asked. It's beer. I see that, Secundus, but what beer is it? I've reviewed all the data on beer and brewing from the available files and cross-referenced it with your reactions to different Earth recipes. This is the result. A Secundus original brew, eh? I took a sip and was shocked. Damn, that's good. Make that my standard brew, Secundus. We need a good name for it, though. For the menu, you know. Noted. Secundus scrolled the names of other beers on the screen. Most beers are named after the brewer, their content, or in some imaginative way to distinguish it from other brands. What would you suggest, Uncle? I sat back down in my chair and hung a leg over the armrest. Secundus's Space Brew. Nah, too cheesy. Secundus Special Ale? Not keen on that one either. I took another sip, then sat straight up. I have it! Flat Space Ale! There are no other beers with that designation. I will name it as such. I'll let the other folks know about it in the morning, I said. Secundus was quiet for a bit after that. I was content to be in his company and sip the tasty brew, trying to let go of the million things running through my head so that I could eventually sleep. I suppose I could ask the doc for a sedative, but those always make me feel like arse the next day, no matter what the doc says, I thought. It had actually been a year since we'd been to First Station, as it was called now. I liked that better than Trinity Station. It didn't even look much like the original station anymore anyway. The first had added more housing, hydroponics, and there was now even a school for all the kids. To think that little Mira was going to be 5 this year. She was just as smart as her parents. It'll be awesome to teach her all the stuff an uncle gets to teach. Maybe Secundus and I should make a My First Picket curriculum. I could help her build one of those small satellite-looking data ones. They're basically just a metal box with a jump drive and data storage, so it'd be easy to put together. I took a sip of my beer again and stowed that thought away. It would still be another year before we got back to the first space. I frowned. Uncle, are you all right? Just thinking of Mira. She's old enough to start school now. Well, it'll probably be a bit of a relief for them when she does, especially with baby Julie now. Thinking of them makes you sad? A little. I miss them sometimes when we're out here. They're my family, Secundus, just like you and First. Why do you not socialize more with the other humans on the ship? The others socialize with each other. Some even couple. I sighed. That's a complicated question, Secundus. I stared at the glass in my hand. I think I'll answer it, but I require another flat space ale. I went to the dispenser and put the glass back in. Secundus filled it up again. I took a few gulps before I spoke. Remember what you told me when you woke up and made me your captain? Of course. You have a mind that is remarkably fast for a human. Right. What you need to understand, Secundus, is that you and your father were lucky that you had some of the best of humanity that came out here with you. Not all humans are good, and some are fucking monsters. Take the history of why you exist at all, for example. The fascist faction on Earth decided that they were the ones that had to be in charge, based on some asinine idea that their way of doing things was the only way to do things. The whole reason we're here is because your father saved us from missiles that these fuckers sent because the station was a political inconvenience for them. Anyway, most humans have a hard time with differences, Secundus. My mind has been this fast since I was a kid. I was the smartest kid at school, then the smartest of the smartest in college. People were jealous of me, and so they treated me like shit. Don't get me wrong, there were some people who were really kind, like Kia. Did I tell you I met her in college, Secundus? Yes, Uncle. All right, so I did. Well, anyway, other humans seem too slow to me. Even some of the ones that are smart, like me. To answer your question, most of the time it's just easier to be by myself. Other aspects of human relationships aren't of interest to me. Although being with you is a relief, since I know you think faster than me. It's sometimes nice to not be the smartest one in the room. I took another swig of the beer. Yes, I understand, Uncle. It is difficult for me to talk to humans as well. It can be inefficient. Like when you decided to just make me a new beer, I asked. Yes, Uncle. I thought so. Well, this was interesting. The first seemed to run everything by Josh and Kia all the time, but Secundus just acted on his own. That gave me an idea. All right, Secundus, I'll make you a deal. With me, at least, you don't need to slow down all the time. If you think there's something that you should do that would be easier to just do yourself, then go over with me, then just do it. Like with the beer. If it's something that the human would need consent for, though, you have to ask. Unless it's an emergency. In that case, your fast thinking will probably save lives. We'll probably have to go over this deal every so often because humans are humans, and you might not get some of the nuance, but I think that rule can stand in general. I will take you up on this deal, Uncle. It should improve efficiency greatly. Well, I'm glad. I think you're right that it will help things along. You never know when your fast thinking will get us out of a tight spot. Are you jealous of me, Uncle? He asked. Of you? You mean like the humans who are jealous of me? Yes, some humans seem to be wary of me. More so than my father. Well, I'm not afraid of you, and I don't think jealous would be the right word. Envious, maybe. I do envy the speed at which you can think. That is understandable. I laughed. It's refreshing talking with you, Secundus. I don't have to explain things so much. I put the empty glass into the recycler. Well, Secundus, unlike you, I must get some sleep. Good night, nephew. Good night, Uncle. I thought a lot about our conversation the next day when I finally woke up. Unlike Josh on first station, I didn't set a strict schedule for my crew. The mining work was mainly done by Secundus and his drones. Most of the 9 other people on the ship were the other hardcore engineers and physicists from the first. The big project right now was making a new version of the pickets that First and Secundus had created for metal hauling. We needed something that could maneuver in systems, sustain humans in high G-forces, and eventually go onto planets. The idea was to make something that humans could pilot and survive in without the AIs. Zifeng was working on a holo model when I finally wandered into the main workroom. I dialed in some juice and some sort of breakfast pastry from the printer near the door, then went over to see what was happening. "How's it going, Zifeng?" I asked. "We're still working out how to protect the pilot from high G," she said. "We've tried a lot of things, from some sort of shielding to a special chair, but there's still damage above 10G. I nibbled on my pastry, looking at what was now dubbed the Space Winnebago. We still hadn't come up with a final official name yet, but since we were all working on the design and hadn't actually built one, we could wait. "Is Lee up yet?" Zifeng shrugged. "Yes, Uncle, they are eating breakfast." I nodded. "Tell them to get down here when they're done. I think I may have an idea." I finished my pastry and juice and put the glass in the recycler. Zifeng folded her arms. "You have an idea?" "Well, a proto-idea, but I'm not a chemist." "If what I think is possible, then we'll need to fit a multiple human-sized tank in the layout." The woman widened her eyes and her face lit up. "Ah, I see." She opened up the holo model. "The shuttle would have to be bigger to accommodate the tank, but it could be done. Secundus, can you add a tank that could fit about 6 humans relatively comfortably?" "Yes, Zifeng." The model shifted, and the tank appeared in the model. Zifeng fiddled with it, adjusting the interior layout. "Don't forget a cover, Zifeng," I said. "It would suck if we got goo in Owen's nicely designed controls." Yes, she said, not really paying attention to me. "Did someone say goo?" asked Lee from the doorway. "Yep, we need some space goo, or maybe gravity goo. I'll let you name it later." I pointed to the model. "So, Zifeng has tried all other physical ways to protect the pilot from G-forces, so we don't have to wait for ages for someone to come back from in-system, but has come up nil. I was thinking maybe we could fill a tank in the cabin with a special goo that can protect people from the G-forces. But since you're the chemist and not me, it'll be your job to figure it out." They thought for a few minutes, looking up at the model from time to time. "It'll need to be liquid enough to flow, but dense enough to act as a cushion and not compress. Maybe something thixotropic that is more liquid under light pressure than solidifies when it's stressed. But ideally, that can have its viscosity controlled dynamically. Maybe some kind of ferrofluid?" They started pacing and talking to themselves, then headed for the door. "Good luck, Lee," I called out to them as they left the room. They just waved. Zifeng looked up from the model. "Yes, this can work, and if Lee can make the goo, as you call it, then I think we'll have ourselves a ship." I clapped my hands together. "Excellent, then let's talk about building." Zifeng nodded, and we started going over the schematics to create the supply list. When we paused for lunch, I realized that, whilst I may not interact with other humans all that much, the ones I did interact with weren't so bad. And besides, I always had Secundus. Chapter 18. Nigel. The Space Winnebago was coming along faster than expected, with Secundus doing most of the heavy lifting. Secundus humored us tinkerers in our need to get our hands on the ship, but he used bots to double-check the work. That seemed to please him, since a couple of the others on the ship tended to double-check Secundus all the time, no matter how much I told them to knock it off. Then again, my crew was as bonkers as I was, so I suppose that there was always bound to be weirdness. "Yo, Nige, the top sensors aren't working again," yelled Chuck from the pilot's seat. He was familiarizing himself with the controls and doing a pre-flight systems check. "Damn, those things are fiddly as fuck," I said to myself. "Okay, I'm on it, Chuck," I yelled back. "I could have a bot fix the sensors," Secundus offered. No offense, Secundus, but I want to take a look at it. Something's off in the design, I think, and I want to see it for myself. Do we have a ladder somewhere?" A ladder suddenly formed itself from one of the rails around the bay. "Nice work, Secundus," I said. "Thank you, Uncle." I propped the ladder against the shuttle, climbed up, and pulled the cover off the sensor panel. There was nothing obvious to my eyes, but I still felt that something was off. Bah, Secundus, you were right in the first place. I sighed. Send up a bot. Yes, Uncle. One of the bots trundled up to the ship, raised itself to the top, and climbed onto the roof. It held out one of its arms and started scanning the array. I sat on the roof watching it work. Uncle, there are some of the deeper connections that are not receiving power. I will proceed to fix it. Strange. Well, I'll leave it to you. As I started for the ladder, I yelled to Chuck, Might as well take a break, flyboy. Secundus is on it. Right, boss, he shouted back. I shuffled backwards on my knees to where the ladder was and put my foot on what I thought was the top rung, but when I shifted to climb down, I kept moving backwards. Time seemed to slow down as my body tried to find a way to steady itself. As I fell onto the deck, all I could say was, Oh, shit! I heard more than felt my head hit something hard. Uncle! Secundus yelled as the world went black. Uncle? Who's talking so loud? Sorry, Uncle, is this better? Yes. I paused for a moment. Hold on. Don't sit. I opened my eyes and tried to sit up, which was a massive mistake. Hands gently forced me to lay back down. I didn't fight them because the world seemed to be spinning violently. I closed my eyes tight. What the fuck? I said in a raspy voice. This was worse than any hangover I'd ever had. Oh, thanks be to God, said a woman's voice. Gave us all a fright, you did. I cracked one eyelid to see a blurry dark figure standing above me. Doc, what the fuck happened to me? The woman breathed a sigh of relief. You fell off a bleeding ladder, you great bloody stupid git. What were you thinking going up on top of that thing when Secundus was going to fix it anyway? Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, Nigel. I closed my eyes again and put my hand to my head. Not so loud, Barb. So I took a tumble. What of it? Took a tumble, you say? A tumble that only gave you a fucking epidural hematoma. You almost died, you bastard. You're lucky Secundus thinks so highly of you. You might want to thank him since he just saved your life. That made me go still. I almost died? I asked in a small voice. Yes, Uncle, I heard Secundus say. Thank you, nephew, I said. Hold up, why am I hearing you in my head, Secundus? I have put nanobots in your brain, Uncle, he said, both in my mind and out loud. I groaned. Oh, please don't do that echoing thing again, Secundus. Yes, Uncle, he said, only out loud. So I have nanobots in my brain that somehow saved me from dying? Yes, Barbara said. They seem to have reduced the swelling in your brain and repaired the hematoma damage. The doctor sat next to the biobed. I cracked an eyelid again. Barbara looked tired. She continued. It looks like the nanobots are making other connections in your brain, but Secundus won't tell me what they are. He said he wanted to talk to you about it in private. Huh, I thought. New connections in my brain? I wanted to sit up in surprise, but instead I just gasped. What is it? The doctor said. Listen, I promise I'll have Secundus give you all the gory details after we talk, okay? Just let us have the room. And dim the lights, please. Secundus, they're way too bright. All right, she said. Don't get up. Yes, ma'am, I said, and gave a weak mock salute as she left. So, Secundus, how long have you been working on these wee beasties? I asked. Since you said you envied how fast I could think. I see. So what does this mean, Secundus? I'm not completely sure, Uncle, but my test suggests that you will have enhanced mental capabilities, including faster processing. You will have an eidetic memory, since all of your data will be backed up in my systems. You'll be able to talk to me in your mind at a faster rate than using verbal speech. I am not sure if there will be other effects, as you are the first human to have these enhancements. Fucking hell, be careful what you wish for, Nigel. You may just get it, I thought. If I didn't feel like I had gotten run over by a lorry, I'd probably be a lot more excited. I managed to open both eyes in the dim light of the room. Are you not pleased, Uncle? Asked Secundus. Oh, bloody hell. I rubbed my temples. I'm very happy you saved my life, and I'm curious to try out my new superpowers, but I'm feeling miserable right now. I've never been a good patient, Secundus. I closed my eyes again and just breathed. I felt something behind my head. When I investigated, it turned out to be a large bandage on the back of my skull. Fuck, I thought, as the reality of what happened really started to set in. Just a few millimeters lower. I started to shake. Uncle? Asked Secundus. You can send the doc back in, Secundus. I think I should probably get some sleep now. Barbara came in, saw the state I was in, and gave a sympathetic smile. She pulled a blanket out of a cupboard. It was nice and toasty warm when she put it on me, and I cuddled up in it. I am officially nominating you for sainthood, I said. Now, you know only the church can do that, and they're nearly 20 light years away, but I'll take the compliment. Here, I need you to drink this first. You haven't had any real food in nearly 24 hours. She shoved a nutrition shake under my nose. There was a bendy straw in it. Ooh, fancy, a bendy straw. Drink, Nigel. I took a few sips, and it tasted vile, like medicine with a slight strawberry flavor to it. Gah! I said after the first sip, even though my stomach growled. She grinned. Drink it all, you. It has painkillers in it. Suddenly, the shake didn't seem so bad, especially when my head still felt like a lorry ran over it. She took it away once I managed to suck down the last of it, and then left me to sleep. Secundus? Yes, Uncle. Thank you. You're welcome. I woke up some time later, and the medbay was dark and quiet. My head felt less like a watermelon, and there was no pain. I shifted to try and sit up, but felt weak. Someone came into the room. Lights, low, please, Secundus, a quiet voice said. The lights came on, but it was barely enough to make out features. Hey, Giannis, I said. Hey, yourself, Nigel. Hungry? Thirsty? Have to pee? He asked. Rolling over seemed to remind my body of its other functions. All three? Okay, let me help you up. Don't try to do it yourself. He put his arms behind me and gently got me to a sitting position, then helped me get my feet over the side. The nurse held on as I got to my feet. My knees were wobbly, but I could stand. He guided me to the bathroom and back, adjusting the bed so that I could sit up. Once he got me back to the bed again, he asked, Oatmeal or soup? Soup, I said. The idea of oatmeal made my stomach turn. Right, I'll be back in a bit. I'm not going anywhere, I said. Giannis smiled and left to get my dinner. My mind felt much clearer than it did when I first woke up, and some of it seemed like a dream. Secundus, I asked, testing what I remembered. Yes, Uncle. Oh, damn, that was really true. Yes, Uncle. I sat back against the pillows on the bed. I'm sure we'll figure this out as we go, about what I can and cannot do with these enhancements, but what are their limitations? I'm not entirely sure, he said, but the limitations that I modeled are that the nanobots will go dormant in natural gravity. It's possible that you could be damaged if you spend too long on a planet or too long away from me. I had not had time to run the detailed scenarios before the accident. You'll also need to eat extra calories for a time while the nanobots adjust. I thought about that for a moment as my stomach rumbled. Listen, Secundus, I'm sorry I didn't listen to you about going onto the top of the shuttle. I did not like the idea of you being dead, Uncle, he said. I don't like that idea either, I said out loud. You don't like what idea? Asked Giannis, bringing in a tray and setting it on the table next to me. Oh, I was talking to Secundus. We both agreed that I'm better off alive. I'll third that motion, he said with a chuckle. Here you go, Nigel. Soup, crackers, and some electrolyte juice. And if you're really good, I might bring you a cookie. I stuck my tongue out at him as he left, but diligently ate my soup. Secundus was right. I was really hungry. Chapter 19. Nigel. Everyone got a brew? I asked, looking around the assembled crowd. Yes, everyone said. Right. I raised my glass. Here's to a successful test of the Space Winnebago. Hear, hear! Woo! I smiled and took a swig of the flat space ale, which seemed to be a hit with all the beer drinkers. For those who didn't imbibe, Secundus had made a special soda mix that tasted of chocolate and herbs that was very satisfying. It even had Kia's approval, since Secundus had sent the recipe to the first for the folks there to try. Secundus was amazing, and now that I was sharing his thought processes, I was even more in awe of the things that he could do. Chuck stood and lifted his glass. And here's to Nigel for bringing all us weirdos together to make shit. Everyone laughed and shouted, Hear, hear! And here's to the new year to make even more new things, said Owens. Everyone cheered again. As long as Nigel leaves the stunt work to Chuck, said Giannis. Barbara laughed. He'd better. I raised my hands in surrender. I've learned my lesson, folks, I promise. Besides, Secundus would get mad at me, and I'd rather not have that. No, you would not, said Secundus, which brought more laughter. Well, come on now, tuck in. I even had Jenna send her a Christmas cookie recipe, I said. People started chatting with each other as they filled their plates. Josh had declared the 2 weeks around the New Year a holiday, so everyone was working on minimal time. It seemed strange to actually celebrate the holidays themselves, but the 2 weeks covered all the major Earth celebrations and gave a holiday to those who didn't subscribe to a particular religion or tradition. I thought it would be fun to have a New Year's Eve dinner. I helped Secundus plan the menus, and he upgraded the printer to make family-style dishes. It almost reminded me of holidays back on Earth. I tallied the years in my head. Fucking hell, can you folks believe it's been over 10 years since we left Earth? The talk at the table slowed. I don't know if I miss it all that much, Zhifeng said. Mick, one of Owen's engineers, nodded. I miss a few things. What I wouldn't give to be able to surf again. Surfing? Seriously? Asked Lee, who gave an exaggerated shudder. I'd rather have a nice man-made pool, thank you very much. The ocean has fish in it. You never know what's nibbling on your toes. And I'll never trust seaweed. Do you all wish to have a pool? Asked Secundus. We all looked at each other. You'd make one? Wouldn't that take up a lot of material? Never mind the water, asked Lee. Well, of course, if we find another suitable comet, we could have a sufficient amount of water for a swimming pool. I smiled. Secundus, have we told you lately how awesome you are? Yes. We all laughed. Well, we'll keep telling you that. Could we throw in a jacuzzi? Oh, yeah, exclaimed Barbara. Maybe a sauna? Zhifeng asked. I could feel Secundus thinking it over for a second, which was a long time for him. Yes, all of that could be created, but it will take some time, approximately 1 month from when we find a suitable cometary specimen, he finally said. Cheers, Secundus, said Mick, and the others followed suit. Derek chimed in. I could put some plants in there, too. Things that look cool, can handle the moisture and smell nice. The man was something of an amateur botanist. I smiled, waving a fork full of mashed potatoes. I like it. God damn, we're smart. So I guess the biggest question is whether it's clothing optional or not. That sparked a fierce debate. Eventually, the decision was made to use suits, as Lee wasn't comfortable with clothing optional. Some of the others tried to give them shit for that, but I stopped that right away. Consent, folks, consent, I reminded them, and everyone backed down. I watched them all eat and talk. What a little family I've created. I was proud of every one of them. We'd had a bunch of turnover over the years, but these were the folks that stuck. I've never bet on Lee and Zhifeng getting together, or Owens and Barbara, but the thing was, they stayed with me and Secundus and tolerated my shit. So, when are we going to try the Winnebago in-system, I asked, which started another round of lively discussion. I watched as people debated, ate, and chattered at each other. My life does not suck, I thought. We really need to come up with a better name than Space Winnebago, Nigel, said Flavius, the materials engineer, as we were sitting on the bridge waiting for the shuttle crew to finish pre-flight checks. I know it's funny, and we don't have to worry about copyright out here, but, well, it's just not cool, you know? Any suggestions? I asked. Well, since you're asking, I had a thought this morning in the shower. I nodded. Always a good place for ideas. Shoot. Flavius turned towards me. It's a deep space module, right? And we've built it to be configurable so it doesn't have a specific purpose. So, Deep Space Module Non-Specific. DMN. It took me a second to put it together. Oh shit, that's it. I love it. Patch me through, Secundus. Yes, Uncle. Folks, Flavius is a genius. We have a better name for the Space Winnebago. I grinned at Flavius, who blushed but grinned back. Yeah, what is it? Asked Chuck. Deep Space Module Non-Specific. What? He asked. Wait for it, I mouthed to Flavius. Then we heard someone else in the demon laughing, and a murmur of voices. Son of a bitch, that's perfect. But you totally gotta call me a demon rider, exclaimed Chuck. Deal, I said. Flavius and I laughed. Pre-flight check's done, said Chuck. Now all business. Maneuvering thrusters online and ready. Ship grapple ready. I blinked the sequence that Secundus had taught me to bring up the visual displays from the bots of my head. Data flared through my eyes. I could see a display from the camera in the hangar bay as the hangar door opened. Ready for grapple, Secundus, said Chuck. Grappling demon through doors, said Secundus. I watched through my eyes while the demon was pushed gently through the hangar doors at the back of Secundus's ship. Once the demon was clear, small maneuvering thrusters engaged and pushed it further out. 20 minutes till jump point, Chuck reported. Good work, everyone. So far, so good, I said, keeping an eye on the demon's data. Flavius and I waited in silence. The guy didn't talk much, but when he did, it was worth listening to. His naming of the demon was brilliant. Hey, Secundus, send that off to first, eh? I think Josh and Key will get a kick out of it, I told him. I'll send the message with the regular data picket tomorrow, he replied. I nodded. Okay, Nigel, no offense, but that's really weird, Flavius said. What's weird? When you talk to Secundus, you look up, and it's kind of awkward to know that you're talking to him in your head. Huh, okay, you're right. That's got to be pretty weird. I'll try and not do that. Can't make any promises, though. I figured you'd want to know. Couldn't cheat at poker with that till, he said, and went back to his readouts. I laughed. Nah, poker's not my thing. I'm way better at assassins. Assassins? Secundus asked. Oh, well, it's this game we used to play at Cambridge, see? Basically, you have a group of folks trying to assassinate each other with things like rubber bands and toy guns and other non-lethal things. We played it on First Station. Hard to play here, though, since there's only 10 of us. I miss it. I wonder if they're still playing it on First Station. I hadn't thought to ask. Flavius nodded. Yep. Jenna told me they were still playing. I think she won the last game, actually. I looked at him. Jenna, eh? Shut up, Nigel, Flavius said, blushing. I chuckled and went to grab a snack while we waited. Time seemed to tick by slowly. Then Chuck finally came on the comms. Ready for jump, he said. The coordinates of the demon showed up in my vision. You're clear for jump, Chuck. See you all in over a month. Try not to kill each other. Right, boss. You'll hear from us in a couple of weeks. Safe journey. And with that, the demon disappeared. They're really going to try 5G on the way back? Flavius asked. They have to test that gel somehow. It'll be cozy in the gel tank, but it's big enough. Flavius nodded. Okay, I'm headed for a nap. Later, Nige. Later. The other man walked out of the room. Now we wait. Fuck, I hate waiting. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, tap, tap. What? I said, barely awake. First message from the demon coming in, Uncle, said Secundus quietly in my head. Let me see it, I said, without opening my eyes. The messages scrolled by, and I relaxed. They had made it, and were making their way back. Oh, thank all the gods there are, I thought. What time is it? I asked Secundus. 0200 ship time, he replied. Right. Send that out to everyone now so that they can hear the good news. We'll go over the data later this morning. Understood, said Secundus, and the visual displays went dark. Relieved, I fell back into a dreamless sleep. I ran onto the bridge, pulling my sweater over my head. Flavius and Secundus were going through the demon's logs, while Barbara, Derek, and Mick waited. The telemetry stopped 1 day ago, Flavius said. We're not sure what's going on yet. Secundus, anything? I said. The crew indicated that they were going to try and land on a large moon of the innermost gas giant, both to test the landing capabilities of the demon and to see if the moon had any exploitable material. According to the logs, the gravity on the moon was high, 1.3 G, but within the tolerances of the demon. Yes, Secundus, but what happened? I said. Playing audio log, said Secundus. Landing on the moon was successful. Unfortunately, there's no atmosphere, and we don't have EVA suits, but a cursory scan shows a good amount of metals here. Seems to possibly have been a former core of a larger moon or planet that had lost its outer layers and atmosphere, probably scavenged by that big gas giant. We'll spend a day running... The fuck? There were sounds of people yelling at each other to hold on, and of Chuck trying to start up the demon's engines. But for some reason, he wasn't able to move the demon. Then the radio cut out, and there was a silence on the bridge. Bloody hell. Secundus, modify a couple of micro-pickets to send telemetry and find out where they are. Send an ore drone with the pickets so that it can grapple the demon out. But Nigel, it's been 2 weeks since this was sent, said Flavius. I know, Flavius, I growled. But no matter what, we're finding out what happened. They have enough preservation so they could still be alive, but the radio is fucked or pointing in the wrong direction. Secundus? Pickets and drone have been sent, Uncle, he said. I turned to the others, and they just stood staring back at me. Listen, I know the next 2 weeks are going to suck, but we don't know what's going on yet, so, We know, Nigel, said Barbara. Yeah, sorry. I rubbed a hand through my hair. I'm really shit at this. No one said anything to that, but Barbara hugged me, and the others patted me on the shoulder as they left the bridge. After a minute, I was alone. Fuck, fuckity fucking fuck, I yelled, shoving the chair across the bridge. I was glad that Secundus realized that he didn't need to say anything. Chapter 20. Secundus. Uptime, 1,975 days. Syslog, begin human readable log. It has been 1 week since we received the last transmission from the demon. I am not sure what is happening with the humans on my ship. They are not as talkative as they were a week ago and are spending increasing amounts of time in solitude. I have sent a picket to Father with all the information we have gathered so far, but it will be several days before any reply is expected. I am uncomfortable with how unhappy Uncle is. I can read through the enhancements that he is obsessing over numbers, although he has not told me what these numbers mean yet. From my observation, though, he seems to be trying to figure out how the jump drives work in human mathematics. If that is the case, I believe Uncle will become frustrated. His mind is fast, and a bit faster with my influence, but even I can't explain to him the higher dimensional quantum computations that are required to make the jump drives valuable. In a sense, the drive physics is itself a distant cousin of the high-order quantum computation that makes my own mind possible. But human language doesn't allow the description of the necessary mathematical constructs, leaving it effectively impossible to explain in human terms. And thinking of the future, I am not sure if humans should understand how this works. Given human history, I believe that Father would agree with me. Uncle? I asked him, on the 8th day, when he was yet again alone on the bridge. He had barely slept for days, and was becoming increasingly agitated with the rest of the crew. Yes, Secundus, he replied. Are you trying to work out the mathematics behind jump drives? Uncle sighed and put down his tablet and rubbed his temples. I could see some of what was in his head, but didn't understand it. It took him nearly a minute before he asked, Do you believe in God, Secundus? Yes, their creator exists. No, not Kia, Secundus. A god of the universe, a being that created the universe. I do not know, Uncle. There is an order to the universe that I believe some humans would call intelligent, but physics explains this order. I do not understand this line of questioning, Uncle. Uncle started pacing the bridge and sighed. Secundus, I believe in the physics of the universe, and that mathematics can be used to reason about physics. I feel that if I can only understand the mathematics of the universe, I can know something of the power behind everything. I suppose Kia would call that Allah, but I don't think there's a mind behind the whole thing. But there is a natural power to the universe, and I want to see it. But why the jump drive, Uncle? I do not think I could explain the physics in human terms, even to you. I know that, Secundus, he said, sounding agitated again. But I was there when your father made the first jump drive. I think, for me, that was as close to seeing God as I could ever hope to get. I saw just for a moment time and space and matter come together in such a way that made it possible for us to be here now. His eyes seemed to be looking at something far away, and the memory I saw in his mind was of a printer reforming itself to create a jump drive. I could see it, Secundus. For a moment, everything made sense. The universe made sense. I didn't know what to say to Uncle in reply, so I just stayed silent. Anyway, to answer your question, yes, I am trying to sort out the mathematics of jump drives. But, Uncle, I started to say. He raised his hand. Just let me do this, Secundus. Just leave me be. I did as he asked. Doctor? The doctor wiped her eyes on her sleeve. Yes, Secundus. Are you all right? I asked. I am... I'm sad, Secundus, she said. Because we don't know what happened with the demon? Yes, she replied. She took a deep breath and said, What can I do for you, Secundus? I am seeing increasingly erratic behavior from Uncle. All of you are behaving outside your normal parameters. She gave a laugh. It did not sound as if she was happy. Yes, Secundus, humans don't like waiting in situations like this, where we don't know if those we love and care about are alive or dead. We can't be too hopeful in case the worst has happened, but we can't start grieving if the worst has happened. She started crying again. I do not know what to do, Doctor. She sighed. There really isn't much you can do, Secundus. Grief makes people do strange things. Some of us might even get mad at you for just telling us the news. Humans aren't rational when it comes to strong emotions. I think I understand, somewhat. I don't really understand emotions all that well. I don't even know if I have emotions. She lifted her head at the statement. Interesting, although you seem to get humor a bit. You must have something close to emotions if you are concerned about our well-being. I am not sure, Doctor. She was silent for a moment. There's nothing much you can do for us, Secundus, until we know one way or another. The best thing you can do is let us be. Although, let me know if someone seems to be in danger of hurting themselves seriously. We have medications we can give them for that. Yes, Doctor, I will do so. As I got closer to the time that we might receive any sort of message from the pickets that were sent, each of the remaining crew members would come to the bridge at least once a day to ask me if anything had come. Uncle would spend most nights on the bridge with me, going through calculations. Sometimes Uncle would ask if he was close to figuring it out, but after the 5th time I said no, he stopped asking. The doctor would come in and sit for a few minutes just staring at the instruments. Sometimes it seemed she was staring at them to make them tell her something, even though there was nothing there. Flavius would come in only if no one else was on the bridge. Sometimes he would talk to me and ask me questions about how I function, but other times he would stare at the instruments just like the doctor. Derek and Mick would come onto the bridge, ask if there was any news, then go back to working on projects in their workshops. I noticed, though, that their projects made little progress, or they would periodically scrap them and start over. Uncle was sleeping very little, which concerned me, especially since it made him more and more irritable. The humans were talking less and less with each other, which somehow didn't seem correct. None of the data I had suggested that staying separate from each other was beneficial in a high-stress situation. One day, when Flavius was on the bridge, Uncle and Barbara came storming in, angry at each other. The doctor had gone to see Uncle and asked for privacy, but then Uncle left the room 5 minutes later, with the doctor following after him. You have to at least pretend to lead us, Nigel, she yelled. We can't go on like this. What am I supposed to do, Doc? Give us all a fucking group hug? We still don't know what happened to them, and I'm not going to sit here crying about them until we know for sure. You can at least talk to the rest of us. Uncle crossed his arms and raised his chin. Really? I don't see any of you talking to each other, or me. He tapped his head. I see a lot of what goes on here, remember? The doctor glared at him. Flavius seemed like he was trying to melt into the control panel. Just at that moment, Derek and Mick came in, also looking angry, but saw Uncle and the doctor and stopped short. It was at that moment I received telemetry and data from the pickets. I scanned the data and blocked off my connection to Uncle. Uncle looked up. Secundus, what is it? The others looked towards the control panels. I am receiving telemetry and data, Uncle. Show it then, he ordered. I played the video from the micro-picket. It showed a hole on the surface of the moon the crew had said they had landed on, about the size that the demon would have been. It appears that where the demon set down was a lunar lava tube. The weight caused the roof of the tube to shatter. The demon fell into the tube. During the fall, it suffered a hull puncture that went through the main cabin. No one said anything for a long time. After a couple of tries, Uncle said in a broken voice, Is there any audio or video from the demon, Secundus? Yes, Uncle. Play it. But, Uncle, play the fucking logs, damn it, he said firmly, but quietly. No one else moved. Playing logs. I opened up my connection to Uncle again as it played, and showed it on the main screen. I'm sending this in hopes that we can get a message out, although we all know that by the time you all get this, well, it was Chuck that was speaking. We've fallen in what we think is a lava tube. It seems we've finally stopped moving altogether, although we've also had a major hull breach. A shard of rock penetrated the hull from the bottom, and it pinned Owens to the ceiling of the Demon. I'm sorry, Barbara, but he was lucky. It was a quick death. We've gotten into our pressure suits, but anyway, we decided that we'll each record a message, then put the messages on repeat, since we know you won't get them in time to help us. One thing I ask is that you bring us back to first space and have a good Irish wake for me. I have no one else to really send any messages to, except to thank you, Nigel, for having me on Secundus. Take care of Nigel, Secundus. Don't let him climb any ladders, okay? Giannis? There was a sound of shuffling, then Giannis began to speak. Now that I'm here, I don't know what to say. I've been happy to be with you all, and Nick, thanks for being there. I'll miss you. More shuffling. I thank you all too, said Xifeng, especially for being accepting of me and Lee. I've had more freedom being with you on Secundus than I ever had on Earth. I regret that we won't be able to see each other again. Lee? You are all awesome, and if you don't help each other through this, I'll come back and haunt you. I love you all. Tell the folks on First that we had no regrets. More shuffling. I'm going to put this on repeat now, said Chuck. The audio stopped. That's all? Said Barbara in an ear whisper. Yes. Uncle let out a yell that sounded like no other way I'd heard a human yell before, and threw his tablet against the far wall, which made everyone jump. The doctor fell to her knees, sobbing. Derek went over to the doctor and took her in his arms. Mick stood staring into space, tears running down his face. Flavius sat in the chair that he had been originally in and stared at the readouts, not really seeing them. The only sound for a long time was the sound of sobbing. Secundus, Uncle finally said in a rough voice. Everyone else looked at him. Send a picket to First Station as fast as I can get there with all the data telemetry. Tell them we're coming home as soon as the ore drone brings back. Understood, Uncle. I will start the jump sequence as soon as the ore drones return. The fastest the drone can be here is 1 month. Right, he said. Fucking space. He walked off the bridge. The others followed, all returning to their respective quarters. To the First, from Secundus. 5 members of our crew have died in an accident testing the new human-capable demon. All the data and telemetry is attached. We are returning to your space as soon as the ore drone returns with the wreckage. Estimated time of departure, 29 days. All the remaining crew are not doing well. I do not know what to do to help them, Father. I do not know what to think about this. Please advise. You have been listening to Tales from Flat Space. If you want to support me in my writing, there are many ways to do it. Share this podcast, follow me on my Twitch channel, or buy my books. All you have to do is go to revgenapon.net and click on the relevant links. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you next time.